Be ye conformed into the image of Jesus. One of God's purposes for calling us as Christians is to be conformed to His image. We used to believe that to be the extent of our calling, but we've come to understand that God's calling is far more extensive than that. The real reason for our calling is to rule and reign as kings and priests with Christ in the coming millennial kingdom, and after that for eternity. Genesis 1 verses 26 to 28 and Revelation 5 verses 9 to 10 are two scriptures that confirm we were created for this very purpose. Thus, everything in the universe moves toward this goal. Being conformed into His image is critically important. Being a living example of Christ is what will bring others to Him. But the real purpose for our calling is to have positions of authority alongside of Christ in the coming millennial kingdom, and after that, in eternity. But here's the catch. Our life here on earth is the training ground, the proving ground, and the testing ground for that privilege. In other words, it's not a shoo-in. It doesn't happen automatically. It doesn't happen without effort. The millennial kingdom that we will be talking about is not heaven. It's that literal, physical kingdom on earth where Jesus Christ will reign in person for 1,000 years. It's a place where we will recognize each other, where we will have intimacy with the King of Kings, and where we will have a chance to rule and reign alongside of Christ. Micah 4 verses 1 to 2, when we say, rule and reign, with Christ we simply mean we will hold positions of authority, or levels of responsibility that Christ will entrust to us. It might be authority over a country, over a state, a city, a town, or simply a housing complex. It will all depend upon our faithfulness here in this life. Most Christians acknowledge the millennial kingdom to some degree or another, but many have no idea as to what is required to enjoy a significant role there. We certainly didn't. There are many scriptures that talk about the requirements for ruling and reigning. For example, 2 Timothy 2 verse 12 and Romans 8 verse 17, which both tell us that only if we suffer will we reign with Him. Suffering in this context doesn't mean being tortured in some far-off prison. This type of suffering comes from denying ourselves. It comes from bearing ourselves from following what we think and feel, and choosing instead to follow Christ. And it's true, when we deny our flesh, it often is painful and we do suffer. These are only two of the many scriptures that talk about God's requirements for ruling and reigning, yet many of us just skip over these passages. Another example, we asked one young believer recently, does what you do here on earth as a believer influence your position in the coming kingdom? He immediately responded, oh yeah, we get rewards or something like that. That was the extent of his understanding. To be honest, that was the extent of our own understanding until a few years ago. Oh yeah, at the judgment seat of Christ we get rewards or something like that. Many of us don't understand that not only our rewards, but also our place of responsibility in this future kingdom will either be won or lost according to our faithfulness in this life. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 10 talks about the judgment seat of Christ and tells us that all Christians will be judged there according to what they have done, either for good or for bad. This judgment is a judicial evaluation not only of the good we have done, but also for the bad. It's here that our position in the coming kingdom will be determined. So, this judgment seat is not just for rewards. Erwin Lutzer, pastor of Moody Church in Chicago and author of 1 Minute After You Die, said, the assumption that rewards are nothing more than crowns is false in my opinion. Rewards have more to do with levels of responsibility that will be given to us. When we become more like Him, we will be qualified to share with Him in the inheritance and to work with Him in important positions of high responsibility over the whole universe. Colossians 3 verse 24 calls it the reward of inheritance. Consequently, There is an urgent need in the Christian body for a renewed recognition of our own personal accountability before the Lord after we have been saved, just as Daniel Webster said. It's essential that we have a kingdom perspective, where we see our lives here on earth in the context of eternity. We must understand that once we are saved, we are still responsible for what we do with the rest of our lives here and now. It isn't cheap grace. Effective faith is more than just belief. It's more than just knowing the scriptures. And it's more than just going to church on Sundays. Saving faith is learning how to be a partaker of Christ's life, which means not only receiving his life at our new birth, being born again, but also living his life every day. The Bible calls these kind of sanctified Christians, those who partake of his life, overcomers. And the Lord promises some incredible things to these overcomers. He that overcometh shall inherit all things, and I will be his God, and he shall be my son. Revelation 21 verse 7. We must see the importance not only of becoming overcomers, but also of our own personal accountability before the Lord. We don't want other believers to have to wait 50 years in order to see and understand these things. We need to help others know now what the hope of their calling is and understand now what the riches of their inheritance are in the coming kingdom. Ephesians 1 verses 17 and 18. We want them to see that they are deciding today what kind of millennium they will enjoy tomorrow. God bless you all.